I say that if you're thirsty, you're too far gone. Thirst is sort of a down the road kind of thing. You need to address it earlier than when you become thirsty. Dry skin, dry lips, chapped lips, dry eyes, joint pain are all little signs and symptoms. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a really big one. Like, you need to learn how to hydrate before you address anything else with chronic fatigue syndrome. Live in your body, know what it is. If you're doing more sweating than usual, you should replenish. If you're doing really excessive sweating, then a little more electrolyte mixes or salt or something like that, and lots of greens. Organic, absolutely, whenever possible, is super important. I wanted to affect the most people I could affect, and I knew it was hydration.
You're listening to Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, and I'm your hostess, Diane Kaiser, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, former pro soccer player, transformational leader, holistic healer, and life purpose coach, helping you and your business awaken to your full potential. We are a transformation tribe of visionaries empowering passion-quenching, heart-centered advice to wellness warrior leaders on self-love, nutrition, mindset, and divorcing perfectionism. Our mission is to help you laugh your way to a sexy belly, love your way to vitality, and live your life with purpose by sharing real talk and truth drops that will help you cleanse your body, heal your hormones, and ignite your life. Side effects of this podcast may include all-day energy, happy hormones, perfect poops, increased confidence, becoming your own best healer, and catching the self-love virus. There's currently no vaccination to protect you from this and no known cure. In most cases, listeners experience a strong desire to accept new challenges, ditch toxic people, follow their heart, and dance like no one's watching. If you experience moods happier than usual, live it unapologetically and share with your social media friends immediately.
Hey warriors, welcome back to another episode of the Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, where I'm here to teach you how to cleanse your body, as well as the thoughts and the beliefs that don't serve you, to heal your hormones and your bodies, to self-heal yourself from trauma, as well as to ignite your life and the purpose that you came here to serve. So like you've already heard, Dr. Dana Cohen is amazing at talking about the things that I think are one of the most important topics. We talk about clean water. We talk about clean food on this podcast. We talk about clean thoughts, clean lifestyle, clean people around you. We want to help you purify your life so that you can really feel like you're living your life as your authentic and courageous self. So Dr. Dana, let's jump into this whole water topic. First of all, how did you even get into the topic of water? You're a doctor, and I don't think this is your background, right?
No, it's funny. I have my co-author, Gina Bria, came to see, she called me one day and she said, I'm a friend of so-and-so. It was a colleague, told me to call you because I run something called the Hydration Foundation, and I would love to talk to you about the work that I'm doing. And I remember thinking in my mind, oh God, she's going to sell me some kind of Ponzi water purifier scheme.
Yep.
And I was just feeling extra generous, and I liked the colleague that she referred. So I was like, sure, come on in my lunch hour. So she came in, she presented me with the most delicious smoothie I'd ever had. And she started to talk to me about the work that she's doing. And she's an anthropologist, and she had done her dissertation on how desert plants hydrate. And then she started to talk to me about Dr. Gerald Pollack's work on the fourth phase of water and structured water. And she blew my mind. And I remember thinking, like, what are you talking about? There's a new phase of water being discovered. Water, the simplest molecule, H2O, we've known about it since we were kids. And now you're telling me that it's not just liquid, ice, and vapor, that there's another phase that water goes into. Just when you think as a doctor, you know everything, all the physiology, that there's new, and she's telling me some crazy thing. And I was like, oh my God, you're blowing my mind right now. And then she started to talk about her mother, who was in a nursing home, who was repeatedly brought to the emergency room for urinary tract infections or dehydration because she wasn't hydrating properly. And she solved it by giving her mother chia seeds in her morning orange juice and telling the women. And my mom died in a nursing home with Alzheimer's, so we bonded on that. And by the end of the conversation, I looked at her and I said, Gina, I have been searching for my book for 15 years. I used to work for Dr. Atkins. I've worked with some big time doctors, and I've always known you need a platform in this business. And I didn't want to write another book on hormones or thyroid, which is really what I do 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to affect the most people I could affect. And I knew it was hydration. And I just looked at her, I said, do you want to write this book? And she said, yes. And she would never expected, she just wanted to tell me about her work with the Hydration Foundation. And it had nothing to do with really anything except that she was doing pilot studies. And so that was the start of it. And that was probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And I remember as we started, and then I started to do the research, and then I started to dive in, and I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? This is way more complicated than I ever imagined. Like, water research is a very complicated field. I had no idea, but we pulled it off, and we ended up writing the book. And I've gotten incredible feedback. I've helped, I think, a lot of people. And I think it is, and if the one thing that I want people to hear, the single most important thing that you can do to treat and prevent chronic illness is to learn how to properly hydrate. So,
mic drop. I mean, that when I heard you say that on a couple of shows that I listened to you on, I thought, okay, this is much deeper than just 8 glasses of water a day. You know, even me. Okay, so Dana, you don't know this about me, but I was a professional soccer player, and so, you know, in college we're sponsored by Gatorade. Oh, quench your thirst. And I'm thinking, you know, I didn't know back then, but it was like powdered Gatorade. Then you just add water, which was like tap water from Stockton, which was Central California, which is like some of the worst water probably in California. And so we've got like these artificial GMO filled powder things that say we're here to quench your thirst with electrolytes. And I just think that we deserve so much better. So I'd like to start with this because, you know, I want to quench people's curiosity as well, because I think what people do is they start to get a little bit righteous. They don't mean to, but I think they think, because we've been programmed to think, okay, 8 glasses of water, check. I drink coffee in the morning, so like, yeah, I'm hydrating because it's water. And then we hear that, you know, coffee can be dehydrating, but I know you have a different story on that. And then we think, well, wine, alcohol, it's got water in it. Or I'm drinking, you know, smart water, or I'm drinking, what's the one? Vitamin water, or, you know, all these things that we can, like, people think, check, I'm hydrated. But what I'm hearing more than anything, and I know the statistics are like 70% of people are chronically dehydrated, even myself. And here I am, I'm drinking like 3 of these a day. I know you have something to say to even me. So we can tend to think, okay, I got this down, check, or I got like a Brita or a Pure. There's a lot of myths out there. So I'd like to start with that. So people can start by hearing, oh, I don't have it down, but not just that this needs to be complicated, but it actually can be a lot easier. And I know we're going to walk through that checklist later on by what people can start doing. So let's dive into that, Dina, because we're at the dawn of the age of the Aquarius, and that is a water sign. December 21st, 2020, we go into the age of the Aquarius. So it is a water era. So let's just run with it, sister. Just go.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So let me just first start by saying, I'm going to throw out the sodas, the smart waters, the fake colored waters, the fake sweetened, the sweetened drinks. We all should know at this point that is garbage. It's crap. So let's just throw that out. Okay. Let's just say, what about all those people that are saying, I drink water all day long. I drink so much water. You're probably still not doing it right, because I can't tell you how many people I see, at least one a week, where people are overhydrating, and you're flushing out your electrolytes and you're not replenishing what your cells need to get that water into your cells. So yes, we need to drink some water, but it's not about drinking more and more and more and more water. So how do we know? What does it feel like? How do we know to hydrate? I'm going to say a couple things. Unfortunately, there's no way to measure. There's no way to measure your perfect hydration level yet. There's just not. In a very simple way. There are things that we know. If you have, sudden low blood pressure, maybe you're a little dehydrated, and there are signs that we can look at to say, that you are perfectly hydrated. So the first thing I like to look at is that we are meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours during the day, during the daylight hours. So if you're not getting up every couple of hours to go pee, you're probably not hydrating enough. And God knows I've sat at my desk for 10 hours straight, not gotten up once to pee, and it's a problem.
I used to think that was so cool from being able
Yeah.
to drive like from SoCal to NorCal and be like, oh, I could drive 7 hours without being that one girl that, inconveniences everybody by having a small bladder. I used to hear
Yeah.
people say that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, so you want to think about that. You want to look at the color of your urine. You want it to be a nice straw colored. There's a caveat I've been telling, a lot of people about. If you take a B vitamin, then you can't look at the color of your urine because it's going to be yellow colored, unnatural, because of the B vitamins. And so you can't tell. The most important thing is you want to know what it feels like physically. We're all so many of us are cut off from our heads our bodies are cut off from our heads. Like we don't sit in our bodies, we don't feel our bodies. So it's important to know what it feels like to feel fantastic, to be able to move fluidly, literally. That's a sign of hydration. To have good energy. I like to say that afternoon fatigue that you may be feeling and thinking, oh, my blood sugar is dropping. 9 out of 10 times, it's probably not your blood sugar. You're probably just not hydrated appropriately or enough. And what else? You can headaches. These are signs and symptoms of this low grade chronic fatigue. But I mean, chronic dehydration. I also just want to, before we really dig into things, I also want to say that I'm talking about this very low grade chronic dehydration, sort of day in and day out, even by the hour dehydration, as opposed to overt dehydration where you've just had massive vomiting and you're really sick and your eyes are tucked back in your heads. But that's a completely different, that you need to go to the hospital. We're talking about this day in day out dehydration that that we need to address every single day, every single hour. It needs to be on the forefront of our mind. Am I hydrated enough? Am I hydrated enough? And am I hydrated enough? And I will give you some tips on how to do that. So stop being cut off from our head, feel our bodies. And I lay it out in the book how to, what that means to feel like that. And we just have to put it on the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah. Throughout the day, especially because I know that what I also love to talk about, people who've been listening to this podcast and know me, is it's not about doing more. It's about making some shifts. It's also about understanding. It's not like it's not just about building hydration. It's about really asking the longer list of the things that are blocking your hydration. And so it can be a lot easier. And so I want to help you guys simplify that today. So, if we were looking at some signs and symptoms, you just talked about some of them, Dana, with like dehydration looking like migraines or headaches or poor energy. And then also you're talking about throughout the day, not urinating enough, the color of your urine, low blood sugar. So what are some signs and symptoms that someone is dehydrated and that perhaps their symptoms, perhaps their illnesses, their conditions are related more to dehydration than anything else?
So signs and symptoms. All right, let's think about this. Well, thirst. Let's talk about thirst for a second. I say that if you're thirsty, you're too far gone. Thirst is sort of a down the road kind of thing. You need to address it earlier than when you become thirsty. Dry skin, dry lips, chapped lips, dry eyes, joint pain. Are all little signs and symptoms. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a really big one. Like you need to learn how to hydrate before you address anything else with chronic fatigue syndrome. Headaches, we talked about. Constipation, I mean, that everybody knows, but I often forget because it seems so upfront. But it's not. We need to, and it's not. Once again, it's not about drinking more water because you're not getting it into your cells. It's, what else can we talk about? Signs and symptoms. I feel like I'm missing something.
Sleepless nights, like insomnia, perhaps, or hormonal issues, hormonal chaos.
Sure.
Weight gain.
Yeah, you talked about cleansing. The first step in cleansing your body you have to learn how to hydrate. We need that hydration to move through us, to sweat, to pee, to poop. That's how we get rid of toxins. And if you don't have enough hydration, they're staying inside of you, and that's a problem. And also that's related to sleep. We detoxify in our sleep. If you're not sleeping well, you're not detoxifying well. I mean, that's a new thing that's been found out recently. And I thought that was really interesting. A couple of years back, they talked about how the glymphatic system, which is a new basically organ that's been discovered in our brains, of how our brains detoxify. We never knew it before. And it was kind of sitting in plain sight how our brains detoxify. And it's like the lymphatic system in our bodies, it's the glymphatic system in our brains. And you need hydration. You need hydration to move that through. And that's why when first thing in the morning, when you go to pee, your pee is very concentrated. Think about that pee as getting rid of all that junk that you just detoxified overnight.
Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of people too, sometimes I wake up, even still, I've struggled with UTIs myself. That when I was playing pro soccer, that's when I first had UTIs and was told I need to be on an antibiotic every day for the rest of my life because they couldn't figure out why I was having them so frequently. Of course, now I'm not eating gluten and doing many of the things that used to cause a lot of them back then. And a lot of things have changed. I'm not drinking as much alcohol, if any. So these are things that dehydrate you. Now, I do work with a lot of people who are doing my cleanses. I do work with people who are doing more advanced cleanses, or they have been doing more advanced functional medicine lab testing. And then they come to me and we do even deeper dive, testing, looking at the gut, looking at dehydration, constipation. I personally am at this wall with my own professionalism in this realm of what is it? Like the main issues that when people are saying, I feel like I'm drinking a lot of water, but it just feels like it's not getting where it's supposed to go. Yeah. And it feels like that there's still, is it a mineral thing? Is it that things are blocking the cells where the water can't get in? The dry skin, the rapid aging skin, the chronic pain. You talk about the lymphatic system and the fascia system related to this. So I find this to be extremely fascinating and far deeper than just buy a $10,000, water filtration machine. There's a lot more to it. So drive us into the cell, Dana, and take us for a tour of the body. What's going on here where I'm drinking a lot of water, but it just feels like it's not hydrating me?
Yeah. And how many times have people said that? I've said it before, like, God, I can't quench my thirst. No matter how much water I drink, I can't quench my thirst. But then you go and maybe drink some juice or a smoothie, and you're like, oh, that quenched my thirst. Or eat some watermelon, and that's really thirst quenching. So, I think it's about absorption. It's about how much of that water are we absorbing into the cell? How does it get into the cell? How does it quench our thirst? And that's where Dr. Gerald Pollack's work comes in. So we'll talk a little bit about that. He has discovered that there is this fourth phase of water. So once again, we know that water exists as liquid, ice, and vapor. And now we know that there's another phase of water. He calls it easy water, which stands for exclusionary zone. Most people have heard of it as either gel water or structured water. And basically he describes it as how those H2O molecules, how they sort of layer upon each other. And in that layering, how they structure, they share electrons, and then they hold on to energy. And almost like a battery, it does store energy like a battery. So that's an interesting concept, that water equals energy, electrical energy, which is a fairly new concept because, energy to us and our bodies, we get energy from glucose, from foods, from sugars and foods, right? That's how we make ATP. This is another form of energy. And water is not just moistening, it's actual energy. So it's in this gel form of water, the structured form of water that is found in our cells, that intracellularly, that's how the water is situated. And in nature, that's how the water is situated. So you think about like Gina's work, how desert plants hydrate. Think about cactus and aloe. You open up an aloe plant, you have a little itch. You open up an aloe plant and you see the gel fall out. That's structured water. That is loaded with structured water, and it's so hydrating. And the only thing I could say is that you will notice a difference. You will drink, a cup full of water that's loaded with structured water versus a cup full of bulk water, and this cup here with structured water is probably, and I'm making this number up because there's no way to know, but I know from my patients that it's 3 times more hydrating than 1 glass of bulk water or regular tap water. And then I just want to go back to the filter thing. You're drinking filtered water all day long. You're filtering out minerals. You're filtering out electrolytes as well, especially those $10,000 filters. And if you're not replenishing those electrolytes, you're going nowhere. You're actually then peeing out even more electrolytes because it's going to pull electrolytes from within the cell to outside the cell to balance out that electrolyte free water. And it's going to pull it out and you're going to pee it out. And so you're actually going to become most of these people will say to you, oh yeah, but I get a ton of leg cramps all the time. I drink so much water, but I get lots of Charlie horses and leg cramps because they're not replenishing their electrolytes. Mm. So it's very interesting. And I wish I had exact numbers to give to you. Like, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to take this much electrolytes with this much water every single day. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And it depends on a lot of sources, like you said, on how much you're drinking of the things that dehydrate you or doing the things that dehydrate you. And then even movement, it's not that it's all bad things that dehydrate you, exercise and detoxification. Those are the good things that dehydrate you, but the bad things that dehydrate you are the things that you're not even aware of that do dehydrate you, or maybe you are, but you're unconsciously choosing those things without replenishing your body's stores. So I want to talk about that for a couple things there. I got this crystal the other day. It's
I love crystal.
Oh yeah, I live in Sedona, and so I spent about 6 hours over the weekend at crystal stores, and I thought this one was perfectly appropriate for today. If you guys are listening to the podcast, you can listen to, watch us on YouTube. This is a beautiful blue aura crystal. It's the Aqua Aura, and just gorgeous. It reminds me of water and how we're all unified through water. And 75% of our planet, I think it's like 70 or 75%, isn't it, of our planet is water. So our bodies are meant to mimic that. You're talking about different filtration systems, and many of them do dehydrate you. So there's the basic ones, right? Like the Pure and the Brita, and the other things that you could buy for like your refrigerator that are $50 or something. And then you get new filters every so often. Most people ignore them. The signs are up that say, replace your filter. But they don't. And so there's that. Then there's like the next level, which is the Berkey, which I think the Berkeys are great. I'm curious about your opinion on the Berkey or just any of these in general. And then there's reverse osmosis. Then there's the alkaline ones that range anywhere between 2,000 to like 12,000. And then there's spring water and local water, or there's tap water. Those are like the ranges. And I know that people are drinking those things and not really thinking about the quality of it. So within all of those, Dana, run with those if you would, please. Is there structured water in any of that, or is that just, we're talking about quality of water? Structured water is none of those things.
Yeah. So let me just start by saying the only thing that probably has structured water is natural spring water, where it's running through the mountains. It's naturally occurring, like waterfalls. When you go to a waterfall, you feel the energy as soon as you approach it. You could feel the energy of beach water. Like those are loaded with minerals and that kind of thing. And that's more structured water. So that's the only thing. There are, and I will say, let me just tell you, I'm not a water filter expert, and purposely we did that in the book. We didn't put any even recommendations for filters in the book because it's a whole study. We tried to make it really tried to market this book to the masses, and I didn't want to recommend a $10,000 water filter for somebody who could barely even afford a blender, let alone a filter. So but I will say it's a couple things I want to say about that. The Berkey filters, I have some trepidation, and it's interesting because all of my colleagues in my mindshare classes, like that is their favorite filter. I don't see the science there. I just don't see it. So it makes me, I haven't really looked at it. I will say that, but a lot of my colleagues are really recommending it. Maybe it's structured by the way, I don't know if there's a structuring device in the Berkey, but I don't know enough about it. I will say a lot of my colleagues are recommending it. That's all I can really say about it. I like reverse osmosis, and for the biggest single reason is that it takes out fluoride. I think one of the biggest travesties we've done to our water supply is dump fluoride in our waters, and that's how it started. It was never meant to be in our waters, in our water supply, and fluoride is directly toxic to our thyroid. It's a problem. So that's why I like the reverse osmosis. But even with that, then you should add minerals back into it. You could even consider getting a structuring device. These little, they sort of spiralize and structure the water. There's a name for that kind of device. I'm blanking on it right now. So what I tell people is check EWG.org, environmentalworkinggroup.org. They list filters. They list the pros and cons of each, and buy what you can afford. So that's my spiel on water filters.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I also think the other thing I think is important is to check where you live. Like there's online means of checking how good is your water supply, what chemicals, what is in, what heavy metals are in your water. Those people of Flint, Michigan, if they would have checked, maybe they would have all, gotten better purifiers if they could. It's a very poor community, but there are means of checking by where you live as well.
Yeah, I do that. And I do that for my clients all the time. And I show them how to do that. And I record a little Loom video for each client and say, here's what's going on in your water jurisdiction. Here's how to interpret that. Here's what we can do about that. And I think that what you're saying is so true, is that Berkey, I don't know anything about structured water. So I wanted to have you on the show to talk more about it, because I've had a Berkey, I've had reverse osmosis, I've had and have an ionizing system, and something about them still doesn't feel like I'm quenched, right? And I live in Sedona, so I took your advice listening to one of the shows before we got on today, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that up on the road, the 89 toward Flagstaff in the canyon, there is a spring. And because a lot of people pull over and go there, and that's where I get my water from. It's not directly there, but it's somewhere that one of the stores close by has it in their hose, and so it's called Chocolate Tree. So we get our water there, and I feel like that quenches me more, and those are the things I use for heating up food and using it for coffee enemas and things like that. Of course, that's not coming from, that's not what I'm showering in or bathing in. That's a whole different story, right? Because it's a whole nother water supply. But I feel like that's what a lot of people are doing. They're doing the RO, but then they're not. Was the word ionizing? Was that what you were looking for? The word you were looking for, Dana, or something else?
It's like a spiralizing. I'm not going to remember it.
We'll find it. I'll put it in the show notes. We'll try to find it for you guys and put it in the show notes.
All I can think of is Ben Greenfield's father makes these structuring devices. So if you look up Ben Greenfield's father, he's got these structuring devices that he sells. And I think there's something to them. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of science behind it, but I do think there's something to them. But I want to say, findaspring.com. That's a website, and it will tell you where your nearest spring is. And I realize that is a huge ask of somebody to go carry gallon waters to get your own spring water, but you can do that. And in an ideal world, I'm going to have to recommend that. Like that would be ideal. It's not really functional for most people. There is a company called Rising Springs where they actually ship spring water in boxes. But it's also, you're paying for shipping, and like, who knows how good that is. It's sort of also another scary thing. Yeah. But I love, I'm envious you live so close to a natural spring. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought about all those things where I decided, and I think that that's how we all need to choose right now, is to choose not based out of convenience, but to choose based out of resiliency, and to support the pivot for reconnecting to nature and supporting our immune system. And if there are more chemicals and toxins and viruses and pathogens that we're exposed to, we are giving our body the best chance at protecting us and pivoting with all of these extra stressors. I mean, like right now we're living in the most toxic time all around us. In fact, Dana, I want to talk about this too, because I'm really big on talking about EMFs and being too plugged into the matrix and what that does to our system. So we're body electric, right? We're in front of our laptops and our TVs and our phones and our iPads, and there's towers everywhere, and we're on airplanes, and there's just electricity, dirty electricity everywhere. I can tell you that the longer I've been in front of my computer during the day, touching my laptop versus having monitor, external keyboards, I feel like I'm zapped at the end of the day. I feel like I can't quench. So can you tell us more about how technology is affecting our water, hydration, our ability to quest, and our nutrients and symptoms and fatigue and all of those things?
Yeah. I'm not a huge EMF expert, except to say to you that I know with every ounce of my being, it is the reason why we are more dehydrated now than we were even 5 years ago. So let alone computers, fluorescent lights, all this electricity. I mean, physiologically, the simplest explanation I can give to you from just even cell phones, like, yes, there's EMF, but what about the heat that goes up to your face? Like, heat is dehydrating, and fluorescent lighting. I don't have the science behind it. I will just be completely, there's books written about it. I know Mercola wrote a really good book about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple out there. But it is a problem. We need to start learning how to protect ourselves from it. And I'm doing that. I wrote this book, and every single line in it, I made sure that I could say without any pushback from anybody, and if it was controversial, I answered the controversy in the book, so the EMF stuff is controversial. I haven't studied it, but I know it to be problematic. So there's some things that you have to just sort of, look out for. And I think our environments are more dehydrating us now more so than ever because of all the crap we have.
Yeah. I mean, the way I understand it is I went through Nick Pinot's training. If you guys want to learn more about the EMFs and how they harm our bodies and how to protect your families from it, you can go listen to the podcast I did with Brian Hoyer. And they have a course on this, so that it's not like a practitioner course. I went through the practitioner course 3 years ago to become certified on EMF and EMR, and how to protect your family. But they actually created a consumer course. It just launched in October of 2020. So you can go listen to that and get the special on that course, the introduction special for being a warrior with me, to learn more about that. But I want to talk about too, what EMFs and EMRs, like they tend to, what the science says is that they destroy the extracellular matrix of the cell and dump out contents of whatever is in it. So if there's viruses in there, or if there's metals, or if there's nutrients in it, it can dump it out into the bloodstream. And that's what suscepts us to more stressors and dehydration. From my level of understanding of it, is essentially it's disrupting our cell. And in order to get well, you must fix the cell so you don't feel like hell. And that's like the bottom line of it. So we're talking about many different things, but I want to get back to hydration. And I want to go through like the life of a common average person, Dana. And I don't mean like I eat McDonald's or KFC or whatever. I'm talking about, my person who I tend to attract, which is like a 40-year-old, someone in their 40s, one in their 50s, and they're burnt out. They've got 2 kids. Maybe they're going through a divorce or are single moms. Most of them are married, the ones that I work with, or a second marriage. They're super stressed. They've got their job, their purpose. They're superwoman, but they're waking up, and they know that the energy sources, the sugars, the coffees, the energy drinks, it's not the healthiest thing for them, but they're like, I have no energy. I'm just going to do this once. Right. And so they wake up, they do the coffee thing. Then, even though I train them, to eat these certain things, they're still like, but I'm starving and I need energy now. So they do the sugar things throughout the day, here and there, the carbohydrates. And at the end of the day, they're like, I'm exhausted, a glass of wine, they're not sleeping really well. They're gaining 15, 20 pounds, and they can't seem to get off this yo-yo of, I know what I air quotes should be doing, but I'm doing these things and I know that it's contributing to my health, but I don't know how to make that connection. And I would love for you to walk us through every one of these choices that the average person is doing. But they're not trying to harm their body, but they just need to get through the day. So how can they make better choices based on a level of understanding that when I do have this thing and I make this choice to give myself quick energy, here's what it's doing to hydration throughout the body, and here's what I could maybe do instead. And I know you have some really good stuff on coffee, because I was surprised to learn what you said about, does coffee really dehydrate you?
Yeah, that's always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah. It broke me. I was like, oh, that's a myth that I've never even heard of. Wow.
Yeah. So let's just come out and say it. Anything under 4 cups of coffee a day is not a diuretic. So coffee is not dehydrating of itself. And actually there's some good benefits to coffee if you're getting good, clean, mold-free coffee. So I like coffee, and I think, but with that being said, once again, we have to live in our bodies. I have people who can't tolerate 1 cup of coffee because of the caffeine and the cortisol response. So you have to know what bothers you. Once again, I think the single most important thing, and I don't think I did a good enough job of really stressing this in the book, is that we need to start living in our bodies and really, really knowing, we just ignore ourselves. We ignore our bodies. We live in our heads. And if you stepped into your body, and your body is incredibly wise, we all know that, it will tell you what it needs. I want to just go back to something else that I also want to say, the other good news about all of this, and finding a spring and getting all this water and finding the filter, is that I don't think we need to drink as much water as everybody says we think we need to drink. It's not about drinking more and more water. It's about eating your water. It's about eating fruits and vegetables and fiber, and eating and having those minerals of good, clean, whole foods. That's where the real hydration lies. That's how the water gets into your cells. That's the hydration. I mean, I will say I'm not an expert in this yet, but there is something about, and this is a word I'm throwing out there, and it's something to just sort of maybe keep in the back of your mind, because I think you're going to hear more about it. There's something called deuterium depleted water, which is, deuterium is a hydrogen ion. And we only may need in a day 1 cup of deuterium depleted water, and no other water in the day, if we're eating well, if we're doing all this other stuff. So I'm literally just planting a little seed down the road. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But I also want people to know, it's not, you don't have to go crazy with, oh my God, I got to fill up three of these water bottles and make sure I drink them all day long. That's not necessarily the case. I'm going to give you a couple of rules right now. And I think, so by the way, your whole explanation of the 40 something, I'm 50 something, but I've been there as much as a few months ago during this whole pandemic thing. Like, you know what? I'm just going to eat all the sugar I want because I'm in pandemic mode. Nobody's seeing me. I don't have to see patients. Like I'm going there. I'm going to feed my, my emotions, which is horrible, and you have to work your way out of it. And so a very simple thing to do is front load your water. This is how desert people hydrate. They certainly don't go around drinking 8 glasses of water a day. So front loading your water, what does that mean? I like to tell people to start with 16 ounces first thing in the morning. You could squeeze a little lemon in there, throw a little pinch of real salt, which is either the brand real salt or Himalayan pink salt or Celtic sea salt, but not table salt, not plain sodium chloride, because you want the full range, the full spectrum of minerals that's in those other real salts. And drink that down every morning. And I can tell you, without doing anything else, people will notice a difference just doing that. That's a really simple thing, a really simple ask. And I even make it simpler. Go out and buy a glass canister that you could put at your bedside, the one that has the glass on top. Fill it the night before, put your lemon in there, put a pinch of sea salt. You wake up in the morning, put your feet on the ground, drink your water. It's right there. You will notice a huge difference. And I can't tell you how many people that alone can affect in a really positive way. Mm-hmm. So that's first rule. It's easy. And then the second is, and I don't know your audience. And I often feel like, gosh, I'm preaching to the choir, but the more and more I say it, the more people are like, oh my God, you're so right. One green smoothie a day. There, I said it. Do a green smoothie a day. It's basically blended greens in a blender or a Vitamix or whatever, anything in between. Blend them up, put some water in there. There's 1,000 recipes online. Make it to your taste. You can add berries, you could add apple, you could add ginger, you could add chia seeds, which are the star of the hydrating show, and drink one green smoothie a day. Also incredibly life-changing for people, because it's not only incredibly hydrating, it's incredibly nourishing with all those minerals and the greens. We a couple years back too, also 2 years ago, um, there was a study that showed we as human beings need greens, we need sunlight, and we need water to make energy. What is that? That's photosynthesis, right? We are more like plants than we ever knew. So we need greens, and and especially those people who are doing, the ketogenic diets, which I am a fan of. You're not getting enough greens. Do a green smoothie a day, and don't put any sugar in it if you don't have to. Hold your nose and suck it down. you know?
Is there a certain rule with that one, with the green smoothie? Because some people can tend to think that they're okay. I can say I had a green smoothie, but it's not really a green smoothie. So, like, what are the key ingredients that people can play within? Like, you have to have this kind of vegetable. Like, this one's more hydrating. The other one's like, don't miss out on your cucumber because it's more water in that one. Is there certain things to follow within that?
No, I don't think there's any rules except for the sugar. You want to be a little careful of how much sugary stuff you put in their fruits. And I do differentiate between, milk or even nut milk based smoothies, like coconut milk. That's sort of a different thing, or even protein shakes. There's a differentiation. When I talk about a green smoothie, I'm basically talking about blended greens, whatever green you choose. It could be spinach, it could be kale, it could be Swiss chard, whatever greens, pick a green. And then you could also add celery, you could add cucumbers. And then you want to blend that up with water, and then whatever other like flavorings you want to add. So it could be ginger, it could be a little half a green apple, it could be some berries, something low glycemic or not. You don't have to do the fruit, but if you want it for a little taste and flavor. And it also just depends on what kind of diet plan you're following. But you can't go wrong with a green smoothie and a little ginger and lemon. And what else can you put in there? Chia seeds, I think, are really, really hydrating.
I was going to ask you about that. So let's say someone does like a cucumber and they do a couple handfuls of spinach, and then they throw in a lemon and like an apple. I mean, that's just kind of standard for most people, and a little bit of water. Perhaps you need to add a little bit of water just to blend it up a little bit more. I always tell people add just a little bit of water. How much chia would you recommend adding to it so that it doesn't soak up all of it and turn into a porridge so they can drink it?
Well, it depends on how big you're doing, but you could throw in a teaspoonful of chia seeds. You have to play around with it. People, it gets exciting because people will start to then experiment, and you sort of feel like you're a chef, and you're, and I'm going to play with this spice, and I'm going to, we have a bunch of recipes in the book, and we have a couple of ones that are a little esoteric, which were fun, and some of them are even maybe a little bit harder to find some of the ingredients. But most of them are really easy. But we did a few in there just to play around and show you that there can be some exotic things you can do. Lychee is something, but you want to be careful. A lot of sugar in things like that. So.
Yeah. So people are talking about this too. I don't know if this is on your podcast or if I read it or a podcast that you were on. Is they used to, a long time ago, they used to carry chia seeds in their pocket or something like that for hydration. Yeah. And I just got back from Egypt. I was there for 3 weeks and noticed that there was a lot of, and you were talking about this on one of your shows I heard, which is really interesting, about the Bedouins and how they got by. And I'm like, I don't even know what a Bedouin was until I went to Egypt, which are people who are desert dwellers. So I thought, this is really fascinating. I live in the desert now. So how can people, leverage hydration even throughout the day if they don't have water, even for survival tactics and techniques with chia?
Yeah. So front load your water, drink a green smoothie a day. So chia seeds, there's actually this tribe, I think in your neck of the woods, this Tarahumara tribe of these desert people that are elite distance runners. And there's a book written about them. I think it's McDougall is his last name, and it's called Born to Run. And it's about this tribe of people, and they would use chia seeds, suck on these chia seeds as they were running, and like 50-mile marathons, like nothing. And that's it. So it holds chia seeds. If anybody's made a chia pudding, you know what happens. You add liquid to chia and it forms this gel water, structured water around it. And so incredibly hydrating. That's something that will hold onto water like a sponge. It gets it into your cells, absorption of water, of hydration. Yeah, chia seeds are incredible, plus loaded with omega-3 fatty acids.
So the idea there is that the chia inside of your body pulls whatever water you do have in your body into the cells. That's the main thing.
It helps absorb water into your cells. Yeah.
Into where you need it to be hydrated and quenched. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the same thing by eating. You mentioned cucumber. Look at a cucumber seed. The little seed, you touch it. It's gelatinous. It's mucilaginous.
Yeah.
So that's gel water. So the idea is by eating more structured water, you're going to be getting more of that structured water into your cells. And that's, and then it also pulls water, also follows it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And the salt thing, just to clarify that too, is like just a pinch kind of thing. Like you don't have to measure anything, just kind of take a pinch with your fingers and just drop it in there into a 16-ounce thing of water.
Yeah, a good pinch. I mean, not so much so that you're drinking like, when you gargle with salt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm drowning in the ocean.
Yeah. Just you want to throw a little minerals in there. There are some really good electrolyte mixes out there now. That's so much better than Gatorade. There's one I'm on the board of. It's called Cure Hydration, and it follows like the World Health Organization's electrolyte replenishments. And there's no fake stuff in there. Good sweeteners, those kind of things. I would not suggest that you do that for every single glass of water you drink. You can still drink water, but maybe if you have low blood pressure and you're dehydrated, you could do 1 or 2 of those a day. You'll notice a difference. And if you're exercising and you're sweating a lot, you could do 1 of those to replenish afterwards also.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So I that's my sauna. You can probably see it in the corner. That's my, sauna space sauna. And so I have lots of clients doing either near infrared or full spectrum, and they're sweating a lot. So I know another one of your hydration hacks is movement and fascia. I was so fascinated by that. And so, if someone's not moving, if they're injured, I had 3 surgeries last year, so this is my best friend to detox. But I also felt like I wasn't able to drink enough water. So I incorporated Sole water, which is basically salt water. So what advice would you have for people who are, there's not a lot of us doing it now, but like more long distance athletes, or just somebody who's sweating a lot or moving a lot, to kind of, where's that balance in there of replenishing with detoxification, sweating, things like that?
Okay, so I just want to take a step back and explain how movement is a hydrating act, because I think that's really really important for people to understand. So if you haven't heard the term fascia is this connective tissue webbing that supports every cell, every organ in our body. It's everywhere. Everywhere in our body is surrounded by fascia, and it was only up until a couple of years ago that this French scientist decided to look at fascia under an electron microscope of a living person. Prior to that, we've only ever looked at fascia with dried, desiccated, formaldehyde cadavers. And basically you would open somebody and cut through the fascia, get rid of it, and go straight to the organ or the cell or the vessel that you're looking for. And when we looked at it in real life, in real time, under a camera, what this doctor did, you realize that fascia, amongst other things, amongst a support system, this network, it works as a hydraulic pump. It basically moves fluid. Which was fascinating to me, because we only ever thought that fluid gets moved via blood, capillaries, and lymph, right? Now the idea of, well, you got to move your joints to lubricate them, we really understand why, because fascia is squeezing fluid in and out of where you're bending and where you're moving. So I like to say this, I say it often, yet another reason why sitting is the new smoking, because we're squelching delivery of hydration to our periphery by sitting for so many hours. So we need to get up and move. Okay, so that's fascia, why it's hydrating. The question you asked me, I completely forgot. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I ask deep questions that kind of like connect 5 things and I just let you run with it, you know? So it's like, I think people just tend to sweat and dehydrate or detox.
Oh,
or they
yeah.
detox in any way, because some people sit in the sauna and detox and sweat. And then some people are detoxing, but then they're not hydrating properly. So you can't really detox when you're not hydrated either.
Yeah. So also for, and you said about endurance athletes, people that are doing, you know, once again, I actually, my undergrad was in exercise physiology. I've since long forgotten all of that science, but there are people that specialize. So we lay it out in the book. There are ways to measure if you're an endurance athlete and you're exercising for more than 2 hours, how to properly hydrate during those times. And there's sports physiologists that know there's ways to compute that. And it's important. You should do that. You don't want to drink water though. That's why I just also want to go back to one thing. When you mentioned the Gatorade and you, as an athlete, as a younger person, something that popped into my head about the toxins and all the crap that's in those fake sugary things that you used to drink. You know, we're finding out that concussions. So first of all, concussions are on the rise like we've never seen before. So, you know, people are suffering more and more. Emergency rooms are with kids, athletes and kids, younger kids. And I think the reasons are because of toxins. And there's some literature to back that up, believe it or not. So because so the first step that you need to do to treat to prevent concussions is properly hydrate and detox and learn and detoxify. And in order to detoxify, you need to be properly hydrated. So going back to step 1, the very first thing I said, the first thing you need to do to treat and prevent chronic illness is learning how to hydrate properly. So, but even with concussion stuff in athletes, it's that important. And then with detoxification. So if you're sweating in a sauna, I wish I had the magic number, like, you gotta drink this much for so much. I don't have it, except to say, follow the rules. The rules are live in your body, know what it is. If you're doing more sweating than usual, you should replenish. If you're doing excessive sweating, so if you're doing really excessive sweating, then a little more electrolyte mixes or salt or something like that, and lots of greens, organic, absolutely whenever possible is super important.
Yeah, I think that's a good ending point there. So I'll just summarize the hacks. Hack 1 is 60 ounces first thing in the morning with a little pinch of salt. Some lemon would also be nice, and maybe twice a day, especially after exercise. That would probably be a good second time of the day. Yeah, like after.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or sauna, after your sauna. Hack 2, hydration hack 2 is 1 green smoothie a day with, be careful how much sugar that you add, but use hydrating types of greens, and can also add some chia or put them in your pocket throughout the day and just suck on them. That's really cool. I'm going to try that. So just like a pinch of chia seeds and throw them in my mouth and suck them throughout the day.
I want to take one step back on that, because there is one caveat to that. People who are sensitive to lectins need to be a little bit careful with raw chia seeds. So, and not everybody is. Some people are, and then they should be soaked overnight, and then you could eat the gelatinous chia seeds.
Okay,
So,
awesome. Yeah, and pay attention, you guys. Pay attention to how you feel after every meal, because it's your body trying to speak to you, and it's like Dina said, it's time that we connect to our temple and realize that symptoms are not just symptoms. It's actually self-love from the soul speaking to you as symptoms. And then hack 3 is, I already said it, suck on chia seeds throughout the day, unless you have an issue with lectins. Then hack 4 is movement, because I had this visual like dams that humans have created to regulate the flow of water. It's kind of like not moving would be like having a dam that keeps a lot of that stagnant water in the area that's not flowing. Is that an accurate visual?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And we give recipes for what we call micro movements. And the truth is you don't need a recipe because this is a micro movement. You can make it up. This is a micro movement. Like, just like I get up in the morning, I do ankle twirls, I bend my legs, I do some knee bends, like just move, like just make it up. It doesn't have to be a dance. It doesn't have to be an exercise. Move every joint a few times a day. Get up from your seat. Yeah, we need to move.
Yeah.
And that's not exercise. That's in addition to exercise.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I would like to say to you guys, unless you're dancing like a choreographed dance from Dancing with the Stars, like don't even bother. You should just sit in your bed all day. I think that's what a part of our ego says. Like, well, if you don't dance and look like that, then you probably shouldn't move. But really, like, I just kind of like shake like this, and it's kind of like, oh, it feels really good to get my lymphatic. It doesn't look perfect. It looks kind of silly, but who's judging you? If anybody
feels good.
Yeah, it feels so good.
And it's fun, like be goofy, like, bop up and down. There's some interesting studies that we've mentioned in the book about fidget studies. People who fidget live longer than people who don't.
I heard you say that and I went, yes, I'm going to live to 250 then.
Yeah.
I'm standing on my stand-up treadmill desk right now. So I feel like it's my mind moving. So there is actual science that says that, and I think about kids, like numbing them instead of letting them go be kids.
Crazy. Yeah. And in fact, that's, one of the pilot studies that Gina, my co-author, did with I think it was called the Ideal School, a very small charter school in New York, were with kids and like sort of ADHD stuff, or kids who are very distracted, and allowing them to get up, go find the water fountain, come back and sit down. So it hits on so many levels. It's hydration, it's movement, it's clearing their minds. Like, God, let them get up and move,
Yes. Free them from their prison cell so that they can go hydrate their cell. And there's a lot of metaphors in that one I could run deep into, but I think that is a good wrap up point. Parents especially, let your kids go be kids. And the more we try to bottle their labeling of ADHD, which I don't think there really is, labeling, I think is so sad to put kids through that kind of what would you say, a box, like just putting them into a box where they associate with being too much. I mean, that's my childhood programming, is that I was too much. I was moving around too much, and it was just like, calm down, sit down, slow down. And it was like, but I don't know any better. So maybe my body needs more fidgeting and movement, because I also do experience, like a lot of women in my practice, Dana, like poor circulation. And I've heard you talk about that movement and healthy fidgets, intentional fidgets too, could actually be good to improve circulation, cold hands and feet, thyroid issues, etc. So I think it's a good closing point. Would you like to share anything else? I want to know also people know how to find you and support you in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. My website is www.drdanacohen.com. And you can find my Instagram and Facebook from there. That's all I got.
Thanks for the work that you're doing, Dana. I love all the analogies, the metaphors, the science, the enthusiasm, just the real talk, because we can't have flow in our life outside when we don't have flow in our bodies inside.
I love that. That is so good.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just force, right? But the force can't be with you if you don't have space inside of yourself and your cells to co-create that with nature, with God and whoever your creator is, whatever that looks like. So thanks again for you guys for being here to support yourself. Thanks, Dana, for supporting us with all this empowering information. And for the moms out there and the fathers out there, this is the kind of stuff that you can do for your kids too. Just know that it takes a good 21, 30 days to get them into new habits, but eventually they might not need to be on these medications to slow them down anymore. Let kids be kids. So we're moving towards sovereignty, and that starts with self-love and self-health. So thanks again. Share this to everybody that you know, because this is not just your average drink 8 glasses of water a day. This is probably for most people, it would take them 10 years to find this. So thanks, Dana, for putting it at the forefront and continuing to be the forefront and just falling into this work and going with it and flowing with it, because we can't wait to see your next discovery as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, warriors, stay safe, stay sane, and stay sovereign. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If this episode really tugged at your soul and you're ready to have your personal breakthrough, we would love to have a heart-to-heart with you to get you crystal clear on 3 things. What do you want? What's standing in your way? And how do we get you to your soul goal in the fastest time possible? Visit my site, dianekaiser.com/call to schedule your free 1-hour connection session with one of our warriors to map out exactly how you want to look, feel, and live. We've helped thousands of women warriors just like you all around the world free themselves from the symptoms and suffering they never thought possible. And you just might be our next success story. Talk soon.